all your questionnaire clear.
Good evening. Welcome to Live with Dawn Butler. Almost 2 weeks ago, armed persons stormed the Westgate shopping mall in Kenya. Al-Shabab has said they're responsible for the attack. And the questions that have been asked is, why did it happen? And could it happen here in the UK? Now, you can join the debate at any time by Twitter at Star Media Corp, hashtag Live with Dawn Butler, or Facebook, Star Media Corporation, or if you want to call in later on in the show, it's 0203 397 2095. Joining me on the sofa, we have two very special guests, Mohammed Elmi from Somalia Diaspora UK, and we've got Rhonda Ibrahim, who is the coordinator of Safari Somali Community. Good evening to you both. Now, this debate has been raging on now for 2 weeks. It's still very much up in the air as to what actually happened and why it happened. In your opinions, why did it happen?
Well, I think this tragedy really, I'd like first to take this opportunity really to send our condolences to the brothers and sisters in Kenya and those really who lost their loved one, family and friends. Really, it was a tragedy that happened many often in Somalia, but it's not something that we experience ourselves. It's not something even we hate that these things could come up in the shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya. So I think probably if I come back to your question, I think probably there was some sort of level of degree, a lot of people really sharing themselves, Twitter and Facebook, and thinking that what happened to Kenya shopping mall, that itself, despite I think we know that it has been claimed by the group of Al-Shabab that they take the operation itself, but I think a lot of people now
they're sharing. It's actually been confirmed, has it? They've claimed it. Yeah. But I'm not quite sure it's been absolutely confirmed it was Al-Shabaab, but they have made claim to this on Twitter via their Twitter account.
Well, I think as far as we're concerned, I think we know that that Al-Shabaab has claimed, and in a number of ways that the reason they claimed it could be maybe they want to capture in the international media, which I think nowadays we're seeing that in Al-Shabaab name in what happened in West Mall, that names has become forefront of international medias, and I think that maybe was the reason behind it. But I think if when it comes to the operation itself, we're not sure yet that whether Al-Shabaab behind it or not. Is something that I think we should wait until the operation has been ceased, has been accomplished or maybe completed. Then I think the Kenyan government themselves, they will be in a position to share international community, including medias, organizations who really behind it. But really, we adopted here a lot of Somali diaspora who live here. Really, they're sharing this information themselves. And this incident has been taken most of Somali. Where they come to and gather, socialized, whether it's a restaurant or cafe or bar. I think it dominates really mainly this subject. But I think a lot of people themselves, they sharing the information themselves, saying that Al-Shabaab could not behind to take such a huge attack.
Yeah, Rhoda, do you agree with that in terms of whether Al-Shabaab is responsible? Whether you think that because it seems quite strange that the reports that came out of the attack said that Al-Shabaab were going to only kill kuffars, non-believers. It seems quite a strange thing, whereas in Somalia, where they've had previous attacks, they have actually murdered lots of Muslims.
And I really would like to use this opportunity as well to send my condolences to the Kenyan community, to the Kenyan government, to the Kenyan people, to those people who have lost relatives in there. It is really tragic and incident happened, and it could happen anyone. So I'm really so sorry about what happened.
Men, women, children,
everyone.
It is a real tragedy.
It is to real tragedy. Yeah. And secondly, for your question, I really think a few hours after the siege, Al-Shabaab said it in a Twitter, and then after that, for all 4 days, they were repeating it by telephone. Even sometimes I was watching the other day on Channel 4, and someone who's claiming from Al-Shabab, which we know the name, familiar the name, was actually saying that yes, they are, and then they are not in a negotiation position. Up front, they said they are not negotiating. They just want the Kenyan government to pull out from AMISOM, the multinational and peace. African peace group.
But there are 4 other African countries with military intervention in Somalia. So why Kenya? Why just
It's happened already to Uganda. Remember in Uganda a few years ago, 2 years ago, that an innocent people who were just watching the World Cup has been attacked, and then they said that it was there. It was only Uganda and Ethiopia that was there then. So actually, it wasn't only. It's not the first time that happened. It's actually the third or the fourth. Even in Kenya, they attacked. There was a time in Mombasa. Incident happened in Mombasa, and on a resort, and the Israeli airplane. So several things. Actually, it wasn't the first.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that Al-Shabab are just trying to get attention because their power in Somalia is waning, it's dissipating, it's less and less? So do you think that this was Al-Shabab trying to make their mark and to say that we are still relevant in this war?
I think probably in relation to Al-Shabab, I think probably in my belief, we're all aware that Al-Shabab, they have losing on the ground itself in Somalia, and this is the first time that such attack they take outside of their theater really, and this is something that, as I said before, that a lot of people questioning themselves and saying, I think, are they capable really to do Al-Shabab such attack? Well, I think themselves they was becoming themselves fragmented. Those top Al-Qaeda leaders, we know that in Somalia operating, that they have really battled themselves against each other, shooting each other, killing each other. Those top commanders, and they're losing on the ground in Somalia itself. And I think the mainly Al-Shabab way they used to have include even where Kenya, they now helping with the Somalian troops and African AMISOM's troop, which I think called the port. They generate a lot of really the port that they used to control, called Kismayo port itself, which they lost. So I think seeing that in that picture, Al-Qaeda losing on the ground in Somalia, but now the question is that, well, are they capable to take such a huge attack and mean that we're not really undermining, in this particular case, like my colleague mentioned earlier on, in regards to when happened World Cup in Uganda, they killed, when World Cup finals, innocent people, youth mainly, was really watching and gathered together, watching, and 70 people has lost their life as well. But I think now the worry is now, and the clear signal now they're sending to the rest of international communities that Al-Shabaab, if they take some sort of attack, these things can happen anywhere in the street, include London or maybe New York or whatever it is. Really, this is where Western society now they're really focusing about what can happen anywhere in the world.
So what?
Yeah, I really see it as Al-Shabaab changing tactics now.
Okay,
in a stronger way maybe, because this is an international level. It's not even if they are losing in the ground, but then it's a more of sophisticated. They are moving into a more sophisticated way. Yeah.
But don't you think it's going to escalate? So I mean, what would be the response, do you think, of the Kenyan government? Will it be that they'll send more troops into Mogadishu? I mean, do you not think it will escalate the situation?
I was watching. Actually, I was following up for all 4 days and of what. Different people were saying in the TV, and the Kenyan government, when they were all of them actually standing and supporting each other, the entire government, the oppositions and the party, they said it's going to be making more stronger in the Kenyan army, and they are going to send more troops, yes. Okay. Until we finish.
Right.
So actually, it's not they are backing. They are going to be more committed. They were hesitant. All the AMISOM troops first were hesitant whether to go out or not. And I remember at one time that Ugandans were thinking to move when they attacked the World Cup. People who were watching there. So it's getting they really become committed more.
Yeah.
Because it's not a war for Kenya. It's a African Union army that's there really. So and they are the neighbors anyway. So if they don't do something, they are going to be dragged all the time into Kenyan border. You know, where the Somalis reside.
Yeah.
The Kenyan border the Kenyan regions that are close to the Somalia border are Somalis. Is a Somali region as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I want again just say to the viewers that this is a live debate. We welcome your input on this very important and also sad. I mean, it's a very sad topic, but we have to discuss it. So do please tweet in at Star Media Corp, #Live with Dawn Butler, or a Facebook Star Media Corporation. And if you want to call in before the break, it's 0203 397 2095. So Mohammed, do you think that would be the way for the Kenyan government to react? That's the right thing for them to do, is to then put more troops into Somalia and Mogadishu and become bigger and stronger? Is that do you think that's the right road?
Well, in that perspective, I take another angle really, which I think opposite. To me, I believe that, and as I said, sharing most of UK media, which I think recently I was taking part of the discussions about, since this has, you know, really escalated in the incident itself. And I share really my view that as a chair of Somali Diaspora UK, and what we think that if Kenya really push hard on the ground into the Somali people, or maybe those who live large number Somali, they call Isli town, where I think estimated maybe 200,000 people live there, and they have a huge business, and those people are those who have a serious business. I mean, taking part of, you know, their business, they're paying taxes to the, you know, contributing to the economic of Kenya. They have one of the largest really business the Somalia outside of, you know, their diaspora, where they're held in is Nairobi. So now I think what we tell them now, I mean, and what we share with you is that if now the ball is on Kenyan government side, and it's up to them how they play really, how they react, and how they really take this into further. If I give you an example, what we thought that, we know that and aware that those who are really helping and forefronting in this case and advising them, the Kenyan government, include Israel, Secret Service Intelligence, UK, and America, CIA itself. So I think those three countries are really developing the story, finding the way, who behind it, and I know that some of them even, I was watching, I mean, yesterday night CNN quoting that CIA now, they are operating and taking some sample of DNA, finding who belongs, you know, and who belongs, you know, the attackers, which I think now really the Kenyan government, they couldn't even themselves identify who really behind it. And I think we heard that a lot of people that saying that even they escape, those who attackers, they escape and they are not, you know,
because
no one knows where they are.
Because it's reported that maybe 5 people were killed, 5 of the attackers were killed, and then men and women. There's reports that some are from the UK, some are from America. So you're right, it's not very clear who was responsible and how many people have escaped. So does that mean it's a bigger threat, it's more of a worry, and is that why we're not getting clarity in terms of what's actually happened and who's been captured and who's been killed?
I think a lot of people who have been interviewed recently, they confirm that those attackers who, when they taken, you know, we know that a couple of nights, 4 or 5 nights, they was holding the hostage, huge number of hostage, and I think those when they're sharing their, you know, view or maybe thought, I think they're saying that those who are carrying out the attacks, they're not speaking Somali at all. They speak in Swahili, they speak in Arabic, they speak in English, they speak in multicultural language. You see, that shows that, you know, that will give more confidence that the Somali community, that Al-Shabab is not the one who carry out the attackers. And I think
does it irritate you that that all the reports are that it's Somalis who are responsible for the attack? Then does that irritate you? Because I know a lot of the younger generation, Somalis, are like, you know, they only want to talk to us when the attack happens, you know.
Well, I believe Al-Shabab itself you know, that his organization doesn't represent Islam or doesn't represent Muslim or Somali or Yemen or any ethnic belongs to.
Well, if they're
in the name
killing
of Islam,
people,
if they're
then
killing
they're not,
people,
yeah.
and what else we know that ourselves that when it comes to Al-Shabaab, the people they are more the people they kill in the last 2-3 years, it's uncountable really. When it comes to Somalia, those they kills include those who have a bright future, those who graduated ceremony in 200 student medical degree, engineering, IT, those who are in the eye of Somali, they've been killing and claiming that they were those who are behind. So I don't think so. Al-Shabaab is an organization that could stamp in the name of Somali. Is is an organization that belongs to really extremist ideology, and that's something that should address international community rather than Somalia itself. And now what happened to Kenya is a question, and it will give a good opportunity to current government that they can see now have a case putting themselves forward. This is the kind of people we're dealing with day in, day out, you see. So I mean, if now the international community, they see what happened to Kenya and has been captured forefront international media, so now a lot of people thinking that that what Somali community or the Somali people itself, their government suffering for the last 2 decades.
So what you're saying is this tragedy that has been filmed live, that everybody's now talking about, actually you hope highlights the fact that Somalia, the 2 decades of war that's been happening in Somalia, this is what you've had to endure and suffer over 2 decades.
Absolutely, you're right. I think this is what we said when we have been sharing our views, BBC Radio 4, Russian TV, Al Jazeera, Islam Channel, whoever interviewed me in the past few days. This, I think, the mainly on the ground. This is what's Zola Al-Shabab, and I think now the Somali government and the Somali people themselves, I will see that in a positive way. But now they will get international community support. Who now I'd see what Al-Shabab they're capable to do. If was those really behind it, that still. There was a lot of investigation behind on it.
That's an interesting point. I've not heard that point. I've not heard it being discussed in that way before.
But Al-Shabaab, the lifespan of Al-Shabaab, Mohammed, is just short. For the 20 years, Al-Shabaab wasn't there. We were fighting some other causes. Al-Shabaab was after Ahkamta, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and
Islamic Court.
It's Islamic Court. And it has been 3 years old only. So they cannot be responsible for all the things that happened in Somalia for 22 years, really. Yeah. But my biggest worry that I have actually for what happened in the siege, the people that the camera caught, the CCTV camera caught, was not dressed like the Al-Shabaab used to dress it, like the long thing and the beard and that thing. They were really dressed like just a jeans and a shirt and
But wasn't that just so they can be incognito, so they can just blend in and walk in with everyone else?
So maybe I'm still saying maybe it's them who actually becoming more clever on.
So they're
becoming look like more of the.
So rather than stand out. So does that mean, if I follow what you're saying through, that you think some may have actually escaped with the hostages because they would have been dressed like that?
It could be possible. Who knows? It could. The whole thing what happened in the mall really is not correct, because a whole part of the mall is just also collapsed, and they are saying there are still people under there because it was the car park when you watch, and there is a big hole in there. So
I mean, it's a question, isn't it, to how there's been reports how one gentleman who parked up ready to go in the mall, he saw them unloading lots of weapons and just piling them into the mall, so he froze in his car. But there's also reports that they possibly had rented out shops in the mall and were loading up and weaponry in there for weeks, if not months. Do you think that's correct? Do you think that would happen with all the CCTV in the
Well, I think it's been confirmed really. A lot of international newspapers has been covered the story that and sharing them, saying that it's been really hired before the attack has been taking place. It was quite some time 2-3 months has been hired with a fake ID, and I think the police find out, in the name of that has been hired in the place. And what else really people really shocked is that such huge buildings that Westgate Shopping Mall is like where now we have like Westfield is the biggest in Nairobi, and if somebody can get a false document ID and can hire it and also load up themselves for 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, good to their logistic really to carry out.
I mean, false documents are quite easy to obtain really, but the loading up of so many weapons I think would have been difficult. I mean, after the break we'll talk about whether we feel it could happen in the UK, but I think false documents are quite easy to obtain. I mean, you could get false documents in Brent quite easily, to be honest. But the loading up of weapons in a shop over months, I don't know. I think, how would they disguise that, I suppose?
Well, I think that's what I think a lot of Secret Service, I think those I said, Israel and Britain and America, involving heavily, on the ground, finding out the possibility and who really, I mean, we even heard that rumors saying that a lot of senior commanders who are taking out the current government are really giving access. A lot of things is really happening, something that even ourselves that we could not share in the media. In the meantime, it's too early to comment. But I think this, is clearly demonstrated that the story development we're hearing from on the ground in Nairobi, that is not something that really Al-Shabab can exercise.
So there's a lot of, if you like, conspiratorial theories going on in terms of what happened, who was involved, who helped. But ultimately, it will hopefully it will come out in the end, and it is a tragic incident. And it always surprises me when when reporters kind of get people like yourselves, community leaders, on a sofa interview and they say, do you condemn what happened? I mean, I think it's just ridiculous, because of course you're going to condemn what happened. And how do you feel about that when people say, ask you stupid questions effectively?
Well, I think, what they're looking for is, when they're asking that, of course, Kenyans and Somalians, we have such a historic relationship between the two nations, really. And I don't think so. I mean, the Somali community are aware when our country has happened, the conflict, in 1991, a lot of Somali community has really fled into Kenya, and those maybe was more than 500,000 at the time before, they went to Minnesota or Canada or Europe. And I think Kenya, they welcome really our community. It was like they are home. You see, and also even we are aware that those larger community who decided not to go to Europe or anywhere else in the world, part of the world, they now having a huge business really. One of the serious business that belongs to any nations, whether it's Indians or whether it's Kenyan or belongs to the Somali community really. And that is something that our community back home, diaspora, they're proud of it, you see. So I think we hear that even ourselves, that during that attack was happening in the shopping mall, and I think that the crossfires was sharing both the extremists and the police itself. We found that the Somali businessmen and women, really women representatives, they're really bringing giving them medicines, water, food, anything. So that shows some sort of level of solidarity that our community show in the past really 2-3 weeks. But I think that is something that Kenya official, even include their president, Mr. Kenyatta, has really acknowledged the great helps they receive, the Somali diaspora who live in Nairobi. That shows that the two community belongs to, they have so many things common share really.
Yeah. So you hope that this will not divide the communities that are living side by side, cheek by jowl in harmony. You hope that it will not divide them, this incident.
Yeah. I think in the larger diaspora Somali who live in Nairobi and the Nairobi people, in those who live in belongs to whether it's Indians or Pakistani or Bengali or any other multinational. I remember that they come together themselves the whole Muslims who live there, and they demonstrated, show a sympathy, and that shows that I think this what made them is that more, the whole people, whether it's Christians or Muslims or Jew who live there, they unite them in this particular case instead of dividing them anyway. So that's how we see it.
And Rhonda, do you feel the same way?
I really feel the same way. I just feel it was a Saturday, so when it happened, I was actually away for a workshop. So when I came back, and then my children were just watching, which is unusual for them from the beginning to watch TV. They usually play games, but then this time they were watching, and they were so concerned about what could happen anywhere here. So really, it was something to feel sorry about it, and I hope that it shouldn't
happen again.
Yeah, it shouldn't happen again, and it shouldn't.
We're discussing the tragic incident that happened in the shopping mall in Kenya, and whether it could happen here in the UK. We have a Somalia diaspora of almost 1 million people in the UK. Do you think it could happen? Do please get in touch. Twitter at Star Media Corp, #Live with Dawn Butler, or Facebook Star Media Corporation. And if you want to call in live to the studio and joining the debate, 0203 397 2095. And still on the safe with me is Mohammed Almi and Rhoda Ibrahim. So do you think it could happen here in the UK? And before you respond, there is a report that I recently read to say there's around 20 sleeping cells here in the UK, and they call them clean cells, so people who are not known to any authorities because they haven't got a criminal record, so they've never committed a crime, so they're just, if you like, waiting to be called upon for action. Do you think it could happen here in the UK, Rhonda?
Oh, okay. So I really, what I don't understand about when they are doing these kind of things, these kind of actions are taking place, what are they thinking, or what triggers in the first place? What
in a human psyche.
In a human psyche, what triggers them to actually plan and then go to a shopping mall, to a place where lots of people are, and then blow yourself up, or even siege. Hit and run. It's just hit and not demand anything big and then go. So if there is already sleeping cell is there, I always have the worry because I don't know. You could see some people who could.
So you have the worry that it could happen.
It could happen. Who knows? Yeah. I actually have lived in this country for 27 years, and I have never worried about living in this country any time before. Not for the 3 weeks, but for the since I become active with the community.
You're more worried now than you were even a year ago?
Even a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Wow. Maybe because I wasn't involved very much with the community.
Right.
I was just a mother who taking children to school and coming back at that level. But when I become now, when I'm back now to the community development, I have noticed it and have realized the gap between the government authorities in here and the Somali, the gaps. There's a gap.
Between the UK government authorities
and the local communities.
And the local communities.
When it comes to responding in the normal day-to-day and services that the Somali community gets. We have been living here for 27 years. And in print. And when you see all the way up, you were there. There are no Somali even work in the civic center now. And how it happened, I don't know. Whether it is intentionally for the Somali community.
So you feel that there's a build-up of resentment in the Somali community?
That's there, yeah. There's a build-up in resentment.
And Al-Shabab means young, it means the younger ones. Yeah. And you think that the younger ones, that there's more of a resentment?
They are unemployed, they are sitting in their mother's homes at the age of up to 30 years old, where they do not supposed to, they are not working, they are not going to school.
Is that not the same in many of the communities? I mean, we have almost 1 million young people unemployed. With all the recent government changes, there are lots of communities now where young people are at home with their parents, they can't get a job, they can't move out. Why do you think that resentment would build into something violent and extreme?
Because the facilitation is there. You know, there's something that they can turn to.
Right.
They have to be active.
Right.
So either it is to the crime, we have talked a lot about it, to crime, or they are in prison. Somali youth, younger ones are actually, and a large number of them are in prisons.
Right.
Also the extremism, the two extremes.
Yeah. And Mohammed, you're the chair of the Somali Diaspora UK, so you spend a lot of time with the Somali community. So there's two questions that Rhonda has kind of brought, or two issues, if you like. One is the disconnect of the Somali community and the government. Do you find that? Do you find the government listens to the Somali community?
Well, I think if I take it, it's a very important question, really. I think in my view, when it comes to radicalisms, you know, those extremists, those youth, whether there was...
Sorry, we have a phone call.
Sure.
So let me just take this call. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. And what's your name?
My name's Jama.
Gemma, welcome to the show, Gemma. And what's your question or comment?
I just want to make a comment. My comment is that Somalis have been suffering for quite some time. So, and all of a sudden, everybody wants to bring their military in. And it's not like we've been in this situation for the last few weeks or months or even years. All of a sudden, everybody wants a piece of the action. You know, the Ethiopians are coming in, the Kenyans are coming in, the AU's coming in, and obviously that sort of generates this
Okay, so Gemma,
dislike for foreigners.
Okay, so are you saying that after 2 decades of civil war, all of a sudden other countries are now more interested in Somalia?
Absolutely. All of a sudden, everybody wants to come in and then bring all their guns with them.
And why do you think there's this interest?
I can only imagine that it's these governments or countries who have interest in the region are trying to position themselves tactically, or should I say strategically.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see another reason, because it's not like they've done anything for us in the last 30 years. We've been suffering quite some time. You know, millions of Somalis have died as a result of famine and internal conflict.
And what's the strategic positioning for? What are they positioning themselves for, in your opinion?
It can only be one thing: resource, I believe. Resources.
Like oil.
Exactly. It could be oil. It could be other minerals within the region that Somalis haven't discovered yet, but some other entity has. I can't see anything else. It's not like we have gold.
Yeah. Interesting point. Yeah. Interesting point of view, Gemma. Thank you very much for your contributions today. I'm going to put that to you both. Mohammed, Gemma raises some important questions there, doesn't he? Do you think that the West are strategically placing themselves in Somalia?
Well, I think my fellow citizen absolutely was quite right, saying that there is some sort of level of quite interest happening in Somalia recently. If I go back a little bit, I think Turkey was the first country who really took out the barrier that shows that international community can go in Mogadishu, and especially when the famine was happening hugely in Somalia 2 years ago. I think it was Ramadan, 20 August, when I think Mr. Erdogan and his family, his wife and his children and his senior cabinet minister, they went to Mogadishu, and he told the international community and international media maybe a month ago, saying that I am going to fly to Mogadishu. I can show Mogadishu is a city that anybody can go. And I think after that, I think probably international community, they see that Somalia, there's a hope, some sort of hope we thanks to that, you know, Turkey, the effort they made currently in Somalia. But nevertheless, I think, I mean, they shown they are sympathize the community who have suffered, devastated for the last 2 decades of civil war, of conflict of interest in Somalia between the clients, between, you know, the tribes. But I think, having said that, yeah, you got a call? Yeah, go ahead.
I think we've got another caller on the line. Good evening. Okay, we've lost that caller.
Oh yeah, sure. So having said that, I mean, there is a way of really interest. I mean, international community, when they are running, we know that Somalia, a country who have really full of resource in terms of highly uranium, in terms of livestock, in terms of gas, in terms of oil, and such, you know, a nation which I think estimated between 9 to 10 millions. I think I remember that when Guardian has predicted that the Somalia oil, if drilled, that would be, the Somalia will make number 8 into world ranking, while Kuwait will go now number 9. So now the Kuwait will holding number 8, but the Somalia will go to number 8, and Kuwait will go to number 9. So that is only when it comes to the Somali oil when it's drilled, and really take care for it. And in terms of the gas, in terms of livestock, we remember the last, you know, central government that was leading to Mr. Mohammed Siad Barre, the Somalia economic was independent on livestock only. So those now where the, you know, called nowadays they call Juba land, where I think is only the Juba's region are really the whole country depend on, you know, the agriculture, such a banana, and, you know, all the livestock of Somalia.
So Jama's point of strategic placement of the West could run true. I think we've got a caller. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show. And what's your name? And have you got a comment or a question?
Yeah, my name's Abdullah. Yeah, I just wanted to answer the question if whether or not the Westgate attack can happen in UK. Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think it would be possible, because the Westgate attack, the sort of training it took, and the amount of terrorists and soldiers like involved in that sort of thing, I don't think something of that scale could happen in the UK, because obviously the security is a lot more here, and people are more wary of these sort of things. So I doubt they'd have enough time and preparation to pull off that sort of thing without the security forces being involved before it.
So you don't think that it could happen because of the organisational aspect, but do you think that there's a growing kind of anger in the community at all?
No, not really, to be honest, because I think that sort of thing only affects British people if it happens on our own soil. But I mean, most of these things, most people hear on the news or the papers every other day. So I don't think this specifically has affected the community in any way. Okay,
well, that's a good comment and contribution to the show. Thank you very much for calling in today, Abdullah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So Abdullah says no, it's unlikely that would happen in the UK, and we're fastly running out of time. We could be discussing this for a lot longer.
If I should maybe comment what he said, Abdullah, I agree in terms of really cynics. I think the Croatian government, especially Mr. Cameron's his personal initiative, bring up 2 major conference which he hosted, calling international community partners, lobbying Somalia to stand itself once more, and trying to become a world Western leader to establish in the embassy in Mogadishu. And I think William Hague himself, he was there. So I think all this sympathize and touch our community heart, you know, their heart really. And so that I don't think so that the youth, they know that what the current government is doing to their own people. And I don't think so that will be, there's no room those extremists really could engage our youth and brainwash and
we would hope that they wouldn't be able to get so many weapons. But I hope it doesn't happen here in the UK. We kind of hope and pray that it doesn't happen here in the UK. And just to finish up, if anybody wants to contact you and your organisation, Rhoda, how would they contact you and your organisation?
We have got in fact, we both live in the same, share the same building at Moran House, in Easton. I mean, in Williston Green. I could leave the telephone is in here, and then maybe.
And we'll put it up on.
And the emails and all these things.
Okay, we'll put it up. On there. And Somali Diaspora UK.
Well, I think they can Google and SomaliDiasporaUK.org. So then I think the website will link to them, contact page, and I think they can get our contacts details, hopefully.
Great. Well, thank you both very much for discussing this important subject today. And thank you all for watching and listening and contributing.
Thank you as well.
If you want to watch back the programme, you can do so on YouTube/Star Media Corp. And we will see you again next week for another edition of Live with Dawn Butler. Thank you very much.
You have all your questionnaire clear.